Hello, welcome to Stories in Time. My name's Ellouise Schoettler. I'm your storyteller. This is the time of year when families gather. We all get together, sit around a table in the living room, and it's an opportunity, isn't it, to tell stories in your family. Personally, I think your family is your most important audience. That's how we sort of pass down our legacies of who we are, how we got to be that way, and we share some of the funny things that happened during our lives. Even the children can pop in with a story that they know. I'm going to tell you one today that I always like to remember around the holiday time. When my father came back from World War II, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment at the Virginia Apartments on Hawthorne Lane in Charlotte, North Carolina. I say we. There was my mother and my 2 other sisters, Kathy and Linda, and I'm the eldest. Well, when Daddy came back, took up 1 bedroom because he and Mama had to have a room of their own. And that meant that Linda, Kathy, and I were sharing a bedroom. Did I tell you I was 11 years old and I was sharing with 2 younger sisters? Now, Mother worked it out with a twin bed for Kathy, the youngest one, and bunk beds for Linda and me, and I slept on the top. And the first year, this was tolerable for me. Tolerable. I was growing up. I wanted some privacy. I wanted to be able to put my things down or safely somewhere and not have small younger sister fingers getting all over them or taking them away or whatever. Well, my mother understood my need. There was a small closet in that bedroom, and she went to the storage house at her mother's house and brought out a little desk that she had had when she was a child. It was a little miniature roll-top desk, and it fit right on its side into that closet underneath the shelves. And there was a little matching chair. Now, they were both, it was sort of like Alice in Wonderland. They were a little small for me, but I did now have a space of my own that had its own door, and my father put a lamp, a light that would hang down, a bulb on a string, so that I could actually turn a light on and off in that closet. The only real risk of my being in that closet for too long was that I would use up all the air. It was very small, and when you shut the door, you could hardly breathe. But I could use my desk, I could put my things in there, my diary, and I could turn on the light and I could be alone, even though I could hear them on the other side of the door. Well, we didn't move when I was 12, but we did move when I was 13. When I was 13, they found a little house that they could afford on the GI Bill, and they bought it. It was one of those small houses that were built for veterans right after World War II. It was shaped like a little box. And you walked in the front door, and that was the living room. And then there was a dining room over here, and then you walked out a door into what was a square hallway in the center of the house, and the other rooms ran off of that square hallway. There was a bedroom for Mom and Daddy, a bedroom for Linda and Kathy, and a little den that was going to be my bedroom, and of course a bathroom. I was beside myself when we moved into that house, and finally I had a bedroom of my own. Linda and Kathy got new beds, 2 twin beds. I didn't care. I took the old bunk beds and put them in my little room, and I was happy. That meant that I could have somebody sleep over. There'd be a bedroom in there, bed in there for that, and I'd have my own bed. There was just one drawback to that room. It was a pass-through to the kitchen. You can see the problems that could arise from that. I know you can. And they did. My sisters were in the next bedroom, and to go to the kitchen, they would have to go across that little square hall, into the living room, down through the dining room, and into the kitchen. And when they were going for a quick cookie, that was just too far. So instead, they took a shortcut. They would come out into the little square hallway, turn, and go through my bedroom. It made me angry the first time that they did it, and it made me angry every time that they did it. And I would stand there at the door of my bedroom, and I would grab hold of the door and slam it just as hard as I could. Maybe accompanied by some screaming, maybe by hollering at them, "Get out, don't ever come back," something like that. And my father would say, "Don't do that again, Ellouise." And my mother would say, "Don't do that again, Ellouise. Your daddy's told you. I'm telling you, don't do that again." And every time they came through, it was just too much. And I would grab hold of the door and I would slam it and scream at them. They thought that was funny. And so they would do it more and more and more. Well, one Saturday afternoon, it was in the fall, I think it was probably October, and I was home, and Saturday afternoon, everybody was there, Linda and Kathy, of course, Mother, Daddy, and they turned, and I was in the middle of some project, either homework or reading a book or writing in my diary, I don't remember what, and I was in my room, and they opened the door and came through, and it just made me furious. And so I pushed them out back into the hallway, took that door and slammed it as hard as I could. And outside that door, through those thin walls of the houses that they built for the veterans back then, I could hear something happening out in the hallway right outside that door. And I opened the door and I looked, and there was a pile of plaster laying right on the floor. And my sisters were there. They were looking out of their bedroom, and they were laughing at me. "You are going to get it." Well, I already knew that. I could see what was laying there on that floor. And my father was the next person to come into the hallway. He came in from the living room. And he looked at me. He looked at the floor. He looked from the ceiling to the floor, and he saw about 1.5 inch crack. And the scary part was, he never said a word. There was total silence all around us. And then he just turned and walked away. But I didn't think that I had gotten off home free, you understand. I knew that something was up, and he returned in just a few minutes carrying one of those big, long screwdrivers that has the yellow plastic handle and was the size that would do big jobs. And he didn't say a word. He just walked over to my bedroom, to the doorway, and he reached up and he began to unscrew the screws in the hinges of my door. He was bracing the door steady with one hand. It was already loosed from the wall. And he reached over and he pulled down the stairs from the attic. One of those pull-down stairs that folds open, and then you've got a flight of stairs up into the attic. And the next thing I knew, I was watching my door disappear into the attic. And when Daddy came back down, he came down, he put the stairs up, they slapped up into the ceiling again, and he turned and he looked at me and he said, "You won't be doing that again, Ellouise." And he turned and he walked away. Have you ever had anything happen like that? There was nothing you could say. I was never bringing that up again. I was relieved that that was as much as I was going to be punished for it. And from then on, I was dressing and undressing in the privacy of my closet. And I didn't even go to him and ask him for a bulb. for that closet. I just used a big flashlight. I hung it on the wall, and anytime I needed to dress or undress or look for something, you know, then I just had a flashlight right there hanging on the wall. And that's how it was. October, November, December. And then comes Christmas. We always put up a big tree in the living room. And then we didn't open anything on Christmas Eve. That wasn't our practice. That wasn't our tradition. We always waited until Christmas morning because there was a young one there. She still believed in Santa Claus a little bit. And I got up Christmas morning and they were all standing there at the doorway. My mother and my two sisters were standing there at the door to the living room, and they were sort of giggling. And so I went in. I hoped that Santa had brought me what I had asked for, but wow, over there against the wall near the tree, wrapped up with a big bow, my bedroom door. And when I went over, there was a big note on it that said, "Love to you, Santa." That was really one of the most memorable Christmases I ever had. I loved it. I was so glad to get my door back. I thought my father had been ingenious in thinking that up. And so we often told this story in our family. And then I got married and I moved away, and I wasn't there for many, many of the family gatherings at Christmas. But one year, about 10 or so years ago, I was. And we sat around. Now, I have a younger brother. He's about, 12 years younger than I am. And we're sitting there and we're telling some stories in the family. And I said, you know, I have this story about my bedroom door. And Robert said, I tell that story all the time, Ellouise. And I said, you can't because you weren't here and you don't know that story. And he said, I beg to differ. I've heard that story all of my life. How could you have? It was one of Daddy's favorite stories on you, and he always told it at Christmas. Today, that means even more to me, and that's what happens when you tell stories in the family. They get passed along, and you never know who the teller will be. Come back. I hope you'll enjoy the stories and come to Friendship Heights Village Community Center on the third Wednesday of the month, 7:30. 2 new storytellers every month, free for you. Thank you.